Transform, viewing 3D seismic. To view 3D seismic in Transform, first add the seismic bin grid of the desired 3D to the basemap. This can be achieved two ways. First, drag and drop from the data tree, or click the blue plus and add the seismic bin grid layer to the basemap. Right-click to access the style menu for the seismic bin grids in the project. There's a video help for adding and styling seismic bin grids. Next, click the Create Seismic Transect Mode tool. This tool will allow users to create a transect to view the 3D seismic. Notice instructions appear in the upper right. Left-click drag once the red line appears to engage a crossline. Double-click outside of the seismic bin grid to save. Give the transect a name and color and click OK. Let's do this same method for the inline. A left-click drag. Double-click outside of the seismic. Give it a name. Color, and we'll click OK. Then for an arb line, it's slightly different that you left click, you'll see those yellow points appear in the bin grid, but double click outside, give it a name, and you can also change the color as well. That'll generate an arb line. Once the transects are generated, notice a transects layer has populated the basemap. Users can also access the transects via the data tree. Remember, right-click to access the style menu and then also from the data tree, you can manage and delete your transects. You can right-click, manage, and delete if necessary. To launch a vertical section view or VSV to view the 3D seismic, left-click to select the desired transect and right-click Launch Vertical Section View. Choose the seismic volume to load. Click the blue arrow, push it down, and then click OK. Give the VSV a name. Users can have multiple VSVs open as long as each have a unique name. Once the VSV is open, there's a layer manager just like the basemap on the left. The seismic is going to be on the right, and you can right-click on the seismic for more options like accessing the style menu. In the style dialog, in the trace properties style dialog, click the drop-down to show traces as well. Change the color and fill of the traces that are shown. Within the Color Properties tab, change the color bar and access custom and save color maps for seismic display. Also set the range to display and color bar symmetric about 0 with the checkbox at the bottom. Access the additional tabs for more options, noting at the bottom of each, users can save selections as preferred, so VSV is displayed open with the desired style. Click Close when complete. This location toolbar at the top allows to set the scrolling increment with a slider bar or changing the number. And remember that Control-Shift-M accesses the mouse controls. You can right-click in the seismic to access other options, like launch a new vertical seismic view, and you can kind of choose if you'd like it to be an inline or a crossline, or maybe just a clone of the one that you already have open. If you'd like to page through your seismic, use the hotkeys page up and page down to move the seismic. And then if you want to close your VSV, just click the X at the top of the VSV tab when you're done. Transform 3D Seismic Interpretation, Vertical Section View, or VSV. Once in the VSV mode, start the Horizon Interpretation with this tool. Once the Horizon Interpretation tool is engaged, the Horizon Interpretation toolbar will appear at the top of the VSV. Click Add Horizon to the Interpretation toolbar. Once opened, either create a new parent horizon, or choose an existing parent horizon and create a new horizon, or choose an existing horizon to resume interpretation. Once desired selections are made, notice the box next to the Horizon Surface button is populated with a horizon. This drop down here. This is the horizon active to be interpreted. Note, only one parent geological feature can be listed in the interpretation mode at a time. Before we start the interpretation, let's zoom and adjust the seismic. Click Ctrl+Shift+M to remind you of the mouse tools, Control left drag to zoom, and Control left click to unzoom. Plus do a Control right drag to stretch and squeeze the seismic vertically. Let's explore the seismic interpretation tools. They're in the upper left corner. Before we begin the interpretation, users can click the horizon tracking parameters and choose the type and waveform to be interpreted. In addition, begin the interpretation and Transform will populate these two with the desired interpretation. First, let's try manual. Left click to add a manual control point and double click to complete. Users can left drag a point to move it. The interpretation line is kind of skinny and hard to see, so let's access the style menu and make that line a bit larger. Right click the horizon in the style menu and adjust the slider bars. Click close when complete. That's a little better. We can actually see our interpretation now. So continuing with the manual tool, you can see my ability with a left click and then the double click to complete the action. And kind of what the manual tool will do for you. Next, let's check out the draw tool. Left click to start drawing the line and release the left mouse button and continue to draw. Double click to complete. Next, let's take a look at the snap tool. Left click to auto track between the clicks and double click to complete the action. This might be my favorite tool to use. I do like this one. Next, let's check out the track tool. Left click to auto track the line and overwrite existing interpretation. This is the only tool that you can choose to overwrite interpretation or not. Notice I make a manual interpretation. With a shift left click using the track tool, the manual interpretation will not be overwritten. But if I just do a left click to use the track tool, it will overwrite the manual. Lastly, let's use the erase tool. Left click to start the erase and then double click to end. Make sure to hover the mouse over the horizon to be deleted. Notice the color change highlights the area to be deleted. There are more selections with the erase tool. This dropdown allows users to choose the type of interpretation to be deleted. Check those to be deleted and uncheck those not to be deleted. I'm playing around with this a bit just to kind of show you the tools and how it works. Notice as I change through the tools that the mouse crosshairs change letters. To zoom and adjust the seismic, click the right arrow selection tool. And there's also a hotkey. Use the space bar to toggle between your last two selections. Let's work through this seismic and interpret this event. I'm going to use the track tool for this one. It seems like a pretty strong event in this case. So I'm going to use my page up and page down to scroll through the seismic and a left click to use the track tool. But wouldn't it be better if I actually had the base map next to my seismic line and then I can put my horizon on my base map so then I can kind of see where I've interpreted and where I haven't. So let's line them up next to each other and we'll share the tracking between both the base map and the seismic. So now you can see your line there. And let's add our horizon to the base map so we can see it as we interpret it. So we'll go to the blue plus, click gridded surface, and then search for that horizon that you're currently interpreting. Note, users must choose nearest neighbor in the interpolation method in the style menu to see this interpretation on the map. Remember to use page up and page down to scroll through the seismic, and then you can also use the space bar as a hotkey to toggle in between different interpretation modes. So now I've interpreted all my lines in one direction, so let's switch over to a cross line. If you can't see your interpretation in the crossline view, remember to go to the style menu. You can do that point intersection width. You can make that a little bigger or smaller. And then go ahead and continue with your interpretation. Once finished with the interpretation, to interpolate the interpretation, engage the 2D mapping utility in the base map. Working through the dialog from the top to the bottom, click Horizon Surface and Add. Choose the source, in this case, our horizon that we've interpreted. Click OK. And then click Apply at the bottom to see a generated grid. You can choose to trim the data if preferred, not to cover the whole temporary grid. And then once you're happy with your interpolated grid, click Create. You can give your surface a name. You can click Horizon Surface and choose the associated geological feature, and then Create. You can see your newly created horizon in the data tree. In the data tree, you can manage your horizon. You can delete it by clicking right-click Manage. You can add it to the base map if you like by doing a left drag, or you can also use the blue plus. In addition, please remember to save your session to persist this interpolated grid and your interpretation to the database.